Hi everyone, my name is Jill and I'm going to be demonstrating the Maillard reaction today. The Maillard reaction is a type of browning. So there are a couple different types of browning that we think of in the kitchen. One is enzymatic browning and another is non-enzymatic. So with enzymatic, that happens when something kind of ripens in the presence of oxygen. So when you think of a banana sitting on the counter too long, it starts to brown a little bit, but then that also gives us that really deep, sweet richness that we like to use for banana bread later on. It also happens in grapes, what turns a grape into a raisin. Again, really depth of flavor and a lot of sweetness packed into tiny little space. Same thing happens with an apple. When you cut into an apple, it exposes it to oxygen, and then that starts to brown as well. So we kind of think of it as churning or spoiling sometimes. And a way to counteract that is by adding an acid to it. So when you sprinkle lemon juice on your apple slices, for example, you kind of prolong the freshness of them a little bit. So that's enzymatic browning. Non-enzymatic browning is what we're going to do today, and that is when you are browning something with the presence of heat. So we are going to use heat in order to brown this steak, and we do that with lots of other things in the kitchen as well. Browning is what gives something a lot of flavor, a lot of depth, kind of some sweetness. We can also think of it in some ways as caramelizing something. So there's two different types of non-enzymatic browning as well. The caramelization, which is when you have sugars or carbohydrates and then you add heat to them, and then that sort of caramelizes. You can think of like onions for a burger or pierogies or something like that. We caramelize the onions. In the Maillard reaction, this is when protein meets high heat. So that's what's going to make the browning today. So we're going to pan-sear a steak and hopefully get that really nice crust on the outside of the steak as well, which gives it all the flavor that we love. So I have already pre-salted these steaks, but you also want them to be really, really dry. So we want to manipulate the heat, the temperature, as well as the dryness in whatever we're cooking. So we don't want any moisture present. So salt not only adds flavor, but it's also going to draw the moisture out of the steak as well. So these have been sitting on paper towel, which also helps to dry it out a little bit, and I've salted them for at least an hour now. You can use oil in your pan, or I'm going to use butter personally. And then we also have a cast iron pan that we're going to use as well. So you use about a tablespoon of oil or butter, whatever you choose. And just while that is heating up, I'm going to put some steak spice on my steak. Not everybody loves this, but I'm going to do a little bit on mine. If you get a good cut of steak, then typically all you really need is salt and pepper and a good cook, good chef. So I'm going to do that on mine here. We need this to be really, really high heat. If it's low heat, it's not going to give us that crust necessarily that we're looking for. Okay, now we can tell our pan is extremely piping hot, possibly even too hot if that is a thing. But we are going to place it in the center there, and we're just going to leave it. So I am somebody who likes my crust medium, or my steak medium rare. We're gonna see what happens typically with medium rare. If you're pan searing it, you're gonna want it to be 3 minutes on one side and about 3 minutes on the other side. You're gonna be tempted to flip it or to move it, which I just was. However, you want to leave it so it can form that crust, so unaffected. Okay, so this has been on for about 3 minutes. You can see we've got a nice dark crust. Okay, moment of truth. I just cut into it. The juices are running. This is a warm red center, so medium rare has been accomplished. Really love that darkness on the other side. Some people might not like it that charred, but actually I really enjoy that, and that's how I order it in a restaurant, is Chicago medium rare. Chicago is when they actually put butter on the outside of the steak and then burn it essentially to make an even thicker crust. So really happy with how it turned out in my cast iron pan. I've never actually done it in there before. So This might be another thing that you do with your students, is teach them about different steak temperatures. So one way that chefs sort of go by how the steak is cooked, because obviously you don't want to cut into it to see what the center is like before serving it to a guest, is if you make a fist, the flesh right below your thumb is kind of meaty in there. And so sort of the center of it, the part that bounces back the most, that's what you would consider a rare steak. So rare is classified as a cool red center. If you go down a little bit, it's going to be a little bit firmer. So that's going to be medium rare, warm red center. And then the further down your thumb you go, the higher cooked it's going to be, because it's going to be less tender on your thumb. So that's kind of how you look at a steak, and you press on it with your tongs to see sort of how much bounce back you're getting from that. Thank you for watching. I'm going to enjoy my steak now, and I look forward to seeing the rest of your demonstrations. Bye.